Hey, what's up, guys? Tukey here, back again with another episode of my Carolina Hurricanes franchise mode series right here on NHL 19. You know the deal at this point. In this episode, we go through the rest of the 2024-2025 season, and the pressure is on. We are currently outside of the playoff format with 19 games to go, although, as you can see, we are right in the middle of it, although we've been in this spot before and crashed and burned out of the playoffs, so I'm not exactly overly confident. Now, last year, we made the playoffs for the very first time in, I believe, 4 or 5 seasons. Well, so not very first time, but you get the point. We made the playoffs for the first time in 4 or 5 seasons. We made it all the way to the conference final. So now this season, when the goal is to make it back/past the second round, that's not just the goal for the season. That is a realistic goal for this team. No offense to Coyotes fans, but when I say, we don't want to just make it to a conference final and then have it go right back to the status quo of us struggling to make the playoffs in general, it's just, we don't want that situation. We don't want it. We don't want it. We're aiming for higher than that. So while the team hasn't been particularly poor, we haven't been particularly great either. Now, the good thing is our first goal for the season with Trevor Zegras, or Trevor Zegras, if you want to pronounce it like Mardi Gras, it might actually be pronounced that way. I'm honestly not sure. The good thing is our player goal for the season was with Trevor Zegras, and again, it was for him to have 30 goals. He's 3 away with 19 games to go. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But in terms of making it, to the second round again, /past the second round, I don't know which one it's going to be yet. The suggestion for the goal for the season was written a little bit weird. So again, it should either be just make it to or make it past. They're two very different things. But the good thing is the player goal is out of the way. But we left the last episode, especially off the back of an injury to Jamie Whitfield, who wasn't exactly killing it like he should have been able to do. Actually, here, let's go take a look at the injury report really quickly, because I honestly have forgotten how long he is out for. He is out until March 2nd, so he'll be back very, very soon. So when we look at the team, obviously you'll be able to look at Duhaime as Whitfield, because this is what we have going for us right now. We played it very safe in the last postseason, relying on player development. Unfortunately, someone like Simon Robertson, despite the fact that he's really good, didn't take the step up to third-line player because this game's weird like that. Simon Robertson is very clearly an NHL caliber player, but for whatever reason, with the way it totals attributes, he's listed as a depth forward, which is good because that gives us a little bit more leeway in how we build the team. But again, if you look, again, on the top line, that was a hard right there. If you look at the top line with Whitfield, he's a second-line guy. You have Trevor Zegras as a second-line guy, and that's it. It gives us a little bit of maneuverability. Of course, Svechnikov and McKinnon have to be on the top line, but that technically does leave us room to pick up another second-line player. Technically, I'd love to say we could get 2 people, but we can't. Of course, we have 4 third-liners, so one of the third-liners is going to have to play on the second line. So technically, it leaves us the ability to pick up a 4th-liner as well, because Alex Turcotte is also a depth forward. So it's a tough call, because I don't think it's a good idea to have both Robertson and Alex Turcotte be depth options for the rest of the year. But again, the pressure's on to make the playoffs and do well, otherwise we lose our first-round pick. And again, if we don't make the playoffs and we lose our first-round pick, that just really compounds the trouble, doesn't it? So I took a look at the teams, and of course we took a quick scroll through, and there are really 2 teams and 2 big player options that we could get that would help us in this current situation. The first of those players being Jamie Benn of the Dallas Stars, who is on the trade block at 35 years old, last year of his deal, and he could be a pretty interesting rental for us, who would be playing on the top line with McKinnon. And in terms of a 4th-line option, I got to be honest, I looked at these guys. Kyle Okposo hasn't been a bad option for them on the 4th line this year, and it makes me wonder if bringing in 2 veterans would spark something with this team. But Kyle Okposo and Jamie Benn are available. The benefit of that mainly being they're from a Western Conference team, because the other option would be from an Eastern Conference team where we have Sidney Crosby, who even at 37 years old is still Sidney Crosby, and also Michael Raffl, who's having a tremendous season for them, and again, could be a veteran presence on the fourth line. So again, it's a tough call because we, obviously know that if we get both of these guys, there's going to have to be, two very good players who are healthy scratches. And it's also a tough call because if we go with Crosby, who I think would be the more interesting player to get over Jamie Benn, no disrespect to Jamie Benn, but if we get Sidney Crosby, then, we help out Pittsburgh. And I'm not sure if I'm all right with helping out a division rival. So it is a relatively tough decision. I think the issue here, too, is if I wanted to pull off that trade, I would have to give up my first-round pick this year to do it. And I think by definition of the team goal of make it to the second round, if I lose, or if I fail to do that, I lose my first-round pick. If I don't have my first-round pick this year, I feel like I'd have to give up my first-round pick next year to make it fair. So that would be, that would be a 2 first-round pick swing, which is scary. That said, when you look at the team, and we wouldn't necessarily have to play Crosby at center, but when you look at who we have at center right now, either Crosby or Benn would certainly solidify the 1-2 punch we would have up the middle, which would be very, very nice. Now, Pittsburgh, they're listed as a rebuilder despite having a similar record to what we do. They technically have 2 more wins on the year, whereas the Dallas Stars are much more, certainly looking much more like a typical rebuilder. And I gotta be honest, 2 first-round picks to Pittsburgh scares the hell out of me. So I think we're gonna try to negotiate here with Dallas, and it's such a tough call because, again, those 2 depth options that we've had, they've both done pretty well, but we need something more to make sure that we get the job done here. Not only just in terms of accomplishing the goal, but damn it, this team might be good enough to win. Obviously, we have doubts about Spencer Knight, but especially with the players that we have locked down on the contracts, it is time to win right now because some of these younger guys are eventually going to hit the point where they want a ton of money, and then we're screwed. So if we look at Jamie Benn and Kyle Okposo and what it would take to get them, and I don't think it's going to be all that much, thankfully. Now, obviously, we don't want to give up a roster player, but say we give up Trey Ladd, which I would be fine with because we have good old Gilbert here. Although Roger Gilbert, perhaps, with him being Canadian. I mean, we have a replacement, so we could give up Trey Ladd, which isn't a major sacrifice, and already we're closing the distance on the value. And we technically have to give up somebody else as well. They also want Levesque, which I'd kind of be screwing them over in terms of trade value there, a little bit. But they do want the player, so I'm going to add him onto that, just to get rid of him because he's not going to do anything for us, and we'll consider his value about halved, if anything. But I'd still have to toss somebody else into the mix. And who is that going to be? Sending Matt Zuccarello back to Dallas would be interesting. And that is, honestly, I think exactly what I'm going to do. And, again, right there, that might go through. I'm going to add a little bit more just to not make the most of the Levesque false value. Let's use the second instead. If I wasn't using Trey Ladd, who does have value, I think I'd have to use the first. But we give up a decent prospect, a second-round pick, a meh prospect. Zuccarello kind of offsets Okposo, and I'll also throw in a 4th-round pick just to make myself feel better about abusing Levesque's value. Will that go through for Jamie Benn and Kyle Okposo? It will. So, a big step forward here for this team for the rest of the season. As, again, we bring in, and the top line will be McKinnon, Svechnikov, Benn. So the second line will be Whitfield, Zegras, and then probably Peterson. We'll have Peterson and Theo on different lines at center. Again, the big victims here, Robertson and Turcotte, neither of whom have been bad necessarily, as I can't get away with sending Brandon Duhaime down to Colorado, but that's okay. Again, he was just our random depth option for the season. But time will tell whether or not that was the right move. Again, it's going to be tough not having Robertson or Turcotte in case of injuries, but we need to shore up this team just a little bit. So if we go best lines, again, now it has Jamie Benn on that left-hand side. Who's the better center? We don't know Ben's value just yet. We'll keep Ben on that right-hand side. Second line, of course, Robertson will be in until Whitfield comes back. It actually scratches Morgan Geekie, which will not be the case. So we'll go Robertson, Peterson, Zigra. We'll have Nino, Theo, and Pekka Matanen. Let's have Nino on the right-hand side. And then Allen. It'll probably be Geekie at center, who I believe is a center by default. And Kyle Okposo. 2 veteran additions. Indeed, Morgan Geekie can play center. Does that give us a better chance to win? I'm not sure. I think the real questionable move there is the addition of Kyle Okposo. But if you factor in, and I'm just kind of banking on veteran presence helping us out just a little bit more. It's kind of my one hope at this point. And again, defensively, I think we're going to go with Byram, Riley, Bean, and Hamilton and see how that does. Of course, the third pairing there is pretty much locked in. So we will see what effect that has on the team. Of course, we'll be making changes in a moment once Whitfield is back to 100%. And it's a dangerous move anyway when you factor in that, again, we were right there in the playoff mix. Jamie Benn, though, is now our top scorer. So it's a big move for this team. A very big move indeed, although we do beat Anaheim 7-3. As Celios goes down, Pekka Matanen picked up a minor injury, but he'll be good to go. Celios we don't really have to worry about. It's going to be interesting to see just how this affects the team moving forward. As again, we'll go best lines here, and that is unfortunately going to be Robertson out of the team, and we'll get Kyle Okposo back in. So obviously, Ben and Okposo, rentals again on the year. We know pretty much exactly who's stepping back into this lineup next year. However, that second line now is ungodly. Zigra, Peterson, and Whitfield, that is insanely good. And you factor in now that top 6 is tremendous. And you look at what Dylan Peterson's done this year now that we actually gave him a chance on this team. I'm excited for what this squad is capable of. Whether or not they live up to their maximum potential, that is, of course, always the discussion. But so far, so good. And then we lose Dominic Machine to a concussion for just over a week. And player morale, what do you got for us? It is Robertson who's not going to be happy about being scratched. It feels awesome to be playing extra ice time out there. Fun fact, buddy, or not. Oh, God, there are a lot of guys working hard. Good, glad to hear it. Yeah, I am glad to hear that you're happy as opposed to complaining. I'm glad to hear it. Keep it up. Yeah, his morale dropped. Cool. I think the team's really gelling. Dylan, I agree. Yeah, not affected. I'm glad to join the team. Jamie, I'm glad to have you here. Buddy, don't get complacent. Welcome aboard. I think you got a fair deal, so don't let me down. Yeah, go prove it. Go prove it. Motivational approach doesn't jive. I don't care. Kyle Okposo is also happy to be here. I think we got a fair deal, Kyle. There we go. Yeah, way to go. I had to challenge Jamie Benn. He's the big piece. He's taking away time from younger players. Go prove it. Not to mention, I could have had Sidney Crosby, as Ryan Graves is on waivers. Minor league top 2 at this point, 80 overall. He might actually be better. You know what? I am going to claim him just in case he is magically better than John Wesley. So we will actually claim Ryan Graves there. As the winning streak continues, Brett Leeson goes down to injury in Charlotte, unfortunately. But again, I could have had Sidney Crosby. Would have been a risk. I would have had to help them. Morgan Riley goes down to a minor elbow injury. But that is not going to require a call-up. Dominic Machine is good to go. But that's still pretty rough. So let's go ahead and, again, make the changes to the lineup. Alex Turcotte will take a seat for one Morgan Geekie. And then on defense, Hamilton Byram. Again, John Wesley is not a great offensive defenseman. Let's just go with that. I'm okay with that. Middlestat being on the second pairing with Jake Bean. His Dom Machine is back. We ended up losing to Anaheim, but we bounced back with a win over the Coyotes for our 40th win of the season. We'll just go best lines down with the Checkers again. We play Los Angeles and get the win. And Charlotte's Christoph Dreger. I don't even recall signing that guy, but sure. We'll go best lines. And things are still looking good. So in terms of the draft class, I mean, there are obviously going to be players available. I'm not sure why some of these top guys haven't been scouted yet. Good old Dave Dodge, though, is a great name. Let me actually double check the scouting because maybe I forgot to set it. Although I have to back out anyway because Morgan Riley is yet again healthy. So I don't want to, count the old chickens before they hatch, but obviously we've done really well since the deadline acquisitions were brought onto this team. It's just whether or not that sustains itself. So let's go ahead and back out as we beat Philadelphia. We have another morale thing to deal with. It's Dylan Peterson. I'm happy with my performances, as you should be. I've seen better. You can always do better. You've been nailing it lately. No, there's a lot to be proud of. Good work. Good work. Just, yeah, you're right. You have been pretty good. So we're up to 43 wins on the year now. Let's see where we are. We are in second in the division. My God. That is tremendous. 9-1 in our last 10 games. And when you think back, we were relatively far out of it as of the deadline. Now, New Jersey has a game at hand, but we're just 2 points back of the Devils at this point. Jamie Benn, 72 points in 75 games. We're looking good. We're looking very good. Now, let me just double check this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, W, O, Q, US West, East. Yeah, we have scouts everywhere. Of course, we have to have pro scouts, otherwise we'd be completely in the dark. So I guess, it makes sense that we're struggling a little bit to have information on everybody. We'll get there eventually, though. So let's see. Trevor Zegras has 32 goals, so that is no longer an issue. We will still have our ability to sign people as of July 1st rather than postponing it all the way to August 1st. So thank you very much, Trevor, for hitting 30 goals. We have had trouble in this series in the past in terms of players putting up either specific goal totals or point totals or game-winning goal totals in this series. So very nice to not have to worry about that. Now all that lies in the balance is our first-round pick in the upcoming draft, which we were able to keep. Now, in a way, I kind of feel bad about not giving up a first-round pick, but it is 35-year-old Jamie Benn as a rental. I think it's fair to have given up a prospect, maybe. I don't know. I mean, as it is, too, I did stock the value in their favor, so I don't feel too bad about it. But from a realistic standpoint, yeah, you'd still probably get a first-round pick for Jamie Benn, even as a rental. Ooh. Okay, that's not good at all. Pekka Matanen goes down with a lacerated arm. He is done for the season. I wasn't expecting that. I saw lacerated arm, and then I saw the date. Pekka Matanen is done for the season. Now, he is a big penalty minute guy, despite having 91 discipline. I don't know if he likes to fight or what the deal is there. Obviously, penalty minutes are boosted, but still, that's a decent amount. 16 goals and 21 assists, a very solid defensive option and physical option. Pekka Matanen is done for the year. And that could really hurt us, just in terms of, again, he is a strong defensive option. He likes to hit, likes to block shots. Damn. Now, that does open up room for either Simon Robertson, who, I mean, we know how good he's been, or Alex Turcotte. And, I mean, I think I'd have to give it to Robertson. He's the most well-rounded of the bunch. So that is a huge moment there. And that is a good thing for our depth, as Simon Robertson will join up with Theo Rocher and Nino Niederreiter on that third line. So maybe it was for the best to, get that extra bit of depth, because now, I mean, we have a freaking diamond joining this team in Simon Robertson. He was one of our better players throughout the regular season. So I am not upset at all to see him back on this team, although I will keep Nino on that right-hand side. So that's the team moving forward. I mean, I really like, I'm a big fan of Pekka Martinen, but, it's still rough to see an injury like that happen at a crucial time of the year, and knowing that he's done for the season. He has played his last game. So we ended up losing 9-3 to Nashville and 3-0 to New Jersey. So if I had to guess, despite the records being close, they obviously have 2 other overtime losses, and we've played at least one more game than they have. So New Jersey's going to take that division. That 3-0 loss against the Devils is a backbreaker. And as it is, I mean, we're 2 points back. They each have a game at hand, they each being New Jersey and Washington. So as it stands, 1 win, and we punch our ticket to the postseason, where we will more than likely be on the road in the first round, as we have 2 games left this year against Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Although we'll get a look here. Washington and New Jersey are both in. They are both 2 points clear from where we are right now. And again, technically, we could lose out. We have to beat New York and especially Pittsburgh to stomp out their hopes at a playoff spot. So let's see. Can we beat the Penguins and punch our ticket to the playoffs? We cannot. And it's going to come down to the last day of the season against a very good Buffalo team. We have thrown away our chance at a division title. We're 5-5 in our last 10. And a loss here could technically see us miss the postseason, because Ottawa's on 96 points as well. If Ottawa wins, if the Islanders win, if the Penguins win, we could be out. It's happened before. Crazier things have happened and will happen with how this game works. So we'll quickly take a look here at the team, because we're going to be treating this like a playoff game, because it is. And of course, we still have doubts over Spencer Knight as our goaltender moving forward. That's not really all that surprising. There's really not much we can do about this team. We know that if we fall short here, it's on Morgan Rielly, it's on Spencer Knight, 2 of our bigger players. First and foremost, let's do this. Game 82 of the season. Will it be our final game of this season? Will we fall short of the playoffs in disastrous fashion despite being on absolute fire post-deadline day? First period is a nightmare for us. Jack Eichel and Aatu Räty make it 2-0. Second period, it's 3-1. You have Drake score. Jamie Benn gets us back into it. We go to the third, down 3-1. If we lose here, our fate is out of our hands as Trevor Zegras gets one back. It's 3-2. Overtime would secure the playoffs, although Roddy scores again on Binnington. Spencer Knight was pulled. If we miss the playoffs, Spencer Knight is gone. Period. You can't get pulled in Game 82 with the playoffs hanging in the balance. The Sabres will take this game 4-2. Have we missed the postseason is the question, or have we barely survived? We have barely survived. Had the New York Islanders won, we would have been out. Pittsburgh won, Ottawa won. We needed one team to fall short, and they did. That is the only reason why we made it. We are a wild card team. We are the 8th seed. We'll be taking on the best team in the Eastern Conference, the Tampa Bay Lightning, as we'll be moving over to the Atlantic side of the bracket. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it's a good thing that we made the playoffs. But obviously, to see this team make it in on 1 point because the Islanders lost, that doesn't exactly instill me with the confidence that I should have in this team heading into the postseason. And we know, we pretty much know the players that have to step up. But again, we are playoff bound for the second year in a row. 97 points, the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. St. Louis was the best team in the league. The worst team, Boston, 44 points. Jesus Christ. That is one of the worst seasons I think I've ever seen. That is brutal. So in terms of goals for per game, we were not up there. New Jersey averaged over 4 a game, which is insane. Are we somewhere in the middle ground or towards the bottom? We're somewhere in the middle ground, which is fine by me. in terms of, or it's not fine by me, but it's better than being in the bottom half, I suppose. Goals against per game, Winnipeg averaged almost 5 goals against per game this season. Again, we were somewhere in the middle ground. In terms of our power play percentage, we were, again, middle ground, which I view as a failure on this team. We should have been better than that. And the penalty kill, not in the top half and not in the bottom half. So I'd view us as better than that, but we were a middle ground team, a middle of the road team for the entire season, which is very disappointing. Jamie Benn ended up leading this team in points, 78 points in 83 games. Of course, he would have played an extra after splitting games, but Dylan Peterson was the next highest scorer, 68 points in 82 games. A tremendous season for him. Probably a Calder trophy awaits him this June. A tremendous season for him. Trevor Zegras, 34 goals, 65 points. Job well done by him, although not a tremendous amount of growth from what he did on the third line last year towards being in the top 6 this year. So, very happy with Peterson, but disappointed that he was technically our leading scorer for someone who was here all season long. And with Trevor Zegras, he did what we needed him to do, but it wasn't as big of a step forward as I would have hoped. So, it's just one of those things where, I mean, yeah, it's good, but it's not good. And then Nathan MacKinnon gets the big contract. That is massively disappointing. That is massively disappointing. 64 points in 77 games. He had 95 last year. I don't know what to make of that because, again, he's going nowhere. We are essentially committed to him for the duration of that contract outside of the final year. I mean, technically, you know, after 4 years, he does have the whole 3-team no-trade clause, or the 3 years worth of a 19-team no-trade clause after 4 seasons. But, you know, if he's struggling, it's going to be rough to trade that type of contract. So, not a very, confidence-filled season for Nathan MacKinnon. We get to Andrei Svechnikov, though, 64 points on that top line. Again, disappointing for him as well, compared to what he's shown he can do in prior seasons. Nino, I mean, in the middle 6, he puts up 54 points. I'm happy with Nino Niederreiter. He has been consistent at the very least, so no real complaints there. Theo with 50 points in his second season. He had 29 points last year, so a big step up for him, despite the fact that, again, he was in the bottom 6 of the season. Jamie Whitfield, incredibly disappointing, only 47 points. Robertson, 40 points in 70 games, is very, very good for him in his rookie year. So no complaints there either. And again, Pekka Matinen, who will miss the entire postseason, had 37. Allen, 30 points on the fourth line, is very good. Alex Turcotte, 25 points in 63 games. And Morgan Geekie finally makes the team, has over 20 points on the fourth line, no real complaints. Kyle Okposo, it's not bad. 7 points in 19 games for a fourth liner. I'll take that. I mean, that's a pretty damn good pace, all things considered, in here. As far as what that actual point pace roughly is, I mean, that is... And he's on pace for a 30-point season. I'm not complaining at all. Pretty damn good from Kyle Okposo. Defensively, Dougie Hamilton led the way. Great season for him. 57 points, positive rating, his highest point total ever. So very happy with Dougie Hamilton. Jake Bean, the plus-minus is a little bit concerning, but again, approaching 50 points in consecutive seasons. Hit 50 last year. I'm all right with that, but it is a little bit concerning, of course, that the point total dropped a little bit. And the plus-minus dropped, relatively significantly. Excuse me. His deal is up at the end of next year. So it's a tough one. Morgan Rielly. If we're going to have success in the playoffs, Morgan Rielly has to step up. 45 points this year. A minus 21. He had 74 points last year and was a plus 73. Or a plus 73, I wish. A plus 33. If we're going to succeed this year, Morgan Rielly needs to turn it around. And thus far, it's been pretty disappointing by his standards. Machine, Middlestat, and Bowen Byram all solid, although Bowen Byram's future on this team is in doubt, I would say. I mean, he just is not an offensive force for whatever reason, despite the fact that, with those attributes, he should be a little bit better than what he is. But I don't know if I want to pay 3.2 to a shutdown top 4 guy. But hey, it did work out for us this year. And then, I mean, again, our biggest issue has been Spencer Knight, whether it be the injury concerns or now as we see it, his underperformance. And I mentioned this, if we missed the playoffs, I was dead set, yeah, we're trading Spencer Knight. Even now, we still have doubts over whether or not he's the guy for us. Of course, due to the rules of this, we don't have to worry about a no movement or no trade because he was an RFA. Thank God. But, punch the desk. Very concerned about Spencer Knight overall. Very concerned about a lot of different members of this team. So, let's see what happened around the league. Good God. Well, I'll just let that speak for itself. And in terms of goal scorers in general, I will continue to let that speak for itself. And for anybody who thinks I'm being unfair and maybe judging some of our players a bit too harshly, well, now you know what some other people have been capable of, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to suggest that some of the members of our team should also be capable of putting up similar numbers. I really don't think that's unfair. So, that's outrageous, though. All right, elsewhere, let's take a look at the defense, shall we? Yossi, Carlson, and Sergachev leading the way. So again, a little bit disappointing. I'd like to think that the talents that we have could do, somewhat comparably to this. They should be able to do well. Adam Fox led the way with 36 goals. Goaltending-wise, Gibson wins the most games. Is that going to secure him a Vezina? As, again, the glitch with James Reimer happens. I don't understand how they didn't fix that. So Reimer's going to win the Vezina. As far as who should have won the Vezina, it's probably going to be Gibson, although Rickard Kaltonen in Arizona, I wish we had a similar option like that in the Finnish series. Kaltonen, could have arguably been robbed, but yeah, John Gibson, the rightful winner of it. It's going to go to James Reimer. And Dylan Peterson has been beat out by 1 point from DeAndre Sawatsky, who was the number 3 overall pick in 2023. The Blue Jackets winger is going to win the Calder unless they give it to Peterson off of goals, which seems doubtful to me. Sawatsky's numbers were boosted up by him having a little bit more power play time. So that brings this season to a close. Let's get the confirmation. We know it's going to be Tampa. Let's get that confirmation. Hurricanes, Lightning. A real freaking, I don't know, you can think of your own pun regarding storms. It's going to be interesting to see what this team is capable of now that the pressure is really on. And will this stand to be Spencer Knight's last run with this team? If we fall short here in the first round and lose our first round pick, trading Spencer Knight could be a decent way to recoup. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time when a playoff adventure begins yet again. But yeah, we don't exactly have as much confidence this time around as we did last year.